Somebody in this room needs to hear me right now because you've been judging your future by the scars of your past. But God told me to tell you, you are walking into a season that will not look like the pain you survived. What you came out of is not what you're stepping into. Your next chapter won't look like the storm, the struggle, the heartbreak, the nights you cried, or the battles that tried to break you. Get ready, because your survival was the prophecy, and your new season is the manifestation. If you made it through tie shut, then what's coming next is about to blow your mind. Your survival was not an accident. It was a divine announcement that your next season is already prepared. It's easy to look at what you went through and think it was random, chaotic, senseless, or meaningless. But there comes a moment in life when you look back over your shoulders and realize that even when you felt lost, you were being led. Even when you felt abandoned, you were being covered. Even when everything seemed to fall apart, something deeper was holding you together. Survival is not weakness. Survival is evidence. Evidence that purpose refused to let you die. Evidence that destiny refused to let you quit. Evidence that God refused to let the enemy write the final chapter of your story. You didn't just survive because you are strong, although you are stronger than you know. You survived because purpose protected you. There were moments you should have fallen apart, but something in you, something God placed in you, would not let go. There were nights you cried yourself to sleep, questioning everything, but even your tears were collected by the one who saw the end before your beginning. When the world underestimated you, heaven was underwriting you. When people walked away, purpose stepped in. When life hit you with blows you never expected, grace caught you before you collapsed. Survival was not an accident. It was alignment. Some of the things you walked through were not punishments. They were preparations. They were sharpening you, stretching you, strengthening you, building muscles you didn't know you had, developing faith you didn't know you needed. You were being trained for a season that your pain could not see. Sometimes God prepares you in ways that don't look like preparation. He lets you wrestle so you'll learn how to stand. He lets you be pressed so you'll learn how to push. He lets you be broken so you'll discover what's unbreakable in you. You thought you were being destroyed, but you were being developed. You thought you were being buried, but you were being planted. You thought something was ending, but something was being born. There were doors you prayed for that didn't open, and you thought it was rejection. But heaven was saying, not that one, not yet, not this way. The delay wasn't denial, the delay was direction. You needed to survive the breaking before you could handle the blessing. You needed to walk through the valley before you could stand confidently on the mountain. You needed to encounter the fire before you could carry the flame. And even when it looked like everything was falling apart, everything was falling into place for the season ahead, your survival is a message, a declaration, a divine announcement. When you survived what you survived, the atmosphere shifted around you. Hell took notice. Heaven took inventory. Purpose took root. Your survival means there is still an assignment on your life. There is still a calling over your journey. There is still a promise hanging over your head. God didn't bring you out to leave you empty-handed. God didn't rescue you just so you could return to the same place of brokenness. God didn't strengthen you just so you could stand still. No, He brought you through because your next season has already been carved out, constructed, prepared, and aligned with everything you need to walk in the fullness of who you are becoming. You didn't survive to go back. You survived to go forward. Forward into purpose. Forward into healing. Forward into clarity. Forward into destiny. This next season will not require the version of you that barely made it. It will require the version of you that learned, grew, trusted, and transformed. You came out with scars, but your scars are not signs of defeat. They are signatures of victory. You came out with lessons, but your lessons are ladders elevating you into a higher dimension. You came out with wisdom, but your wisdom is the currency of your next season. And here's the beauty of it. The season you're walking into doesn't depend on your past pain. It depends on your past endurance. It depends on your past faithfulness. It depends on your willingness to rise when you could have stayed down. God saw you wipe your tears and keep moving. God saw you break, then rebuild. God saw you lose pieces of yourself and still show up. God saw you try to make sense of what didn't make sense and still believe for something greater. Survival has a sound, a spiritual frequency that signals heaven that you are ready for what's next. The next season is already prepared. That's why you survived what was meant to destroy you. That's why the enemy's best attacks failed. That's why every weapon formed against you misfired. Because God was preparing something ahead of you, something so strategic, so precise, so purpose-filled, that it required you to come through the fire without burning away the part of you that heaven intends to use. There is a blessing with your name on it, a door with your fingerprints on it, a path carved specifically for the weight of your calling. The survival was the confirmation, the season is the fulfillment. This next chapter will not resemble the chapters that preceded it. The pain you walked through was temporary, but the purpose you carry is permanent. The betrayal was a moment, but the breakthrough is a movement. The heartbreak was a storm, but the healing is a sunrise. Everything you endured has positioned you not just to receive the next season, but to own it, steward it, walk in it with authority and confidence. You are not stepping into this season wounded. You are stepping in wise. You are not stepping in empty. You are stepping in enlightened. You are not stepping in broken. You are stepping in built. So stand tall. Lift your head. Wipe your tears, straighten your shoulders. You survived because you were chosen. You survived because you were called. You survived because your next season is not waiting to be created. It is waiting for you to arrive. God is shifting your identity from wounded to warrior, from broken to becoming. Life has a way of labeling you by what hurt you. People remember your failures, your mistakes, your losses, your heartbreaks. And they try to define you by the moments that left you bleeding. Even you may have looked at yourself through the cracked lens of your own past, believing that what happened to you was the final say about who you would become. But when God begins to move in your life, He does not consult your wounds to determine your worth. He does not consult your history to define your identity. He speaks to the part of you that pain could not kill, the part of you that storms could not drown, the part of you that trials could not erase. That is the part He is calling forward now. That is the part He is strengthening. That is the part He is transforming from wounded to warrior. Wounded people carry memories like weights, dragging them through days that were meant to be lighter. But warriors carry testimonies like weapons, turning what once hurt them into the very thing that makes them powerful. The shift from wounded to warrior is not sudden. It is a journey of unlearning lies you believed about yourself, a journey of releasing identities you unconsciously accepted, a journey of rediscovering the version of you that pain tried to bury. God is not simply healing you, He is reintroducing you to yourself, the self that fear silenced, the self that heartbreak dimmed, the self that disappointment convinced to shrink. You are not becoming someone new, you are becoming someone true. That shift begins internally long before it becomes visible externally. You feel it first in your spirit before you see it with your eyes. It sounds like a whisper, you're more than this. It feels like a push, get up again. It rises like a quiet strength, you survived it. Now grow from it. When God shifts your identity, He shifts your perception. He shifts the way you talk to yourself. He shifts the way you interpret your past. He shifts the way you show up in rooms you once felt small in. And sometimes He shifts the people around you, not because they were evil, because they were connected to an older version of you that no longer fits. Brokenness is not your identity. It was an experience. Pain was not your definition, it was a chapter. You may have walked through seasons where you were misunderstood, rejected, overlooked, or mishandled. You may have carried wounds that no one saw, hurts you hid behind smiles, and battles you fought in silence. But even in those moments, God saw the warrior in you. He saw resilience where you felt weakness. He saw endurance where you felt exhaustion. He saw potential where you felt emptiness. He saw purpose where you felt nothing but pressure. And now, in this season, He is calling for the warrior that was always there beneath the wounds. Becoming a warrior is not about pretending you were never hurt. It's about realizing the hurt didn't win. It's understanding that your tears watered the ground for your transformation. It's recognizing that your struggles sharpened your spiritual senses. It's accepting that the very things the enemy meant to destroy, you have instead positioned you for divine strength. Warriors are not fearless, they are faithful. Warriors are not people who never broke. They are people who refuse to stay broken. Warriors are not the ones who avoided pain. They are the ones who faced pain and kept moving anyway. This shift from wounded to warrior requires you to let go of identities you outgrew. The identity of the one who was left, the identity of the one who failed, the identity of the one who never gets chosen, the identity of the one who always struggles. Those identities were shaped by seasons, but seasons change. God never intended for temporary pain to become a permanent identity. He never designed your mistakes to become monuments. He never planned for your setbacks to become your name. You may have walked into the last season wounded, but you will not walk into this next season that way. You are stepping in differently, stronger, sharper, more aware, more aligned, more grounded in who you truly are. Sometimes God allows your identity to be shaken so what was false can fall away. The shaking is not punishment, it's purification. It strips off insecurity. It exposes who you are when everything you hid behind is gone. It reveals your real strength, your real voice, your real worth. When you stop identifying with your wounds lose their power over your future. When you stop reliving the version of you that struggled to survive, you begin living the version of you that was created to thrive. Becoming is a sacred process. It does not happen overnight, but it happens in divine timing. Becoming means you stop apologizing for being strong. It means you stop shrinking to fit into places you've outgrown. It means you stop accepting treatment that doesn't align with who you are becoming. It means you start choosing yourself without guilt. You start believing in your calling without hesitation. You start trusting your growth even if no one else sees it yet. Brokenness taught you empathy. Wounds taught you wisdom. Pain taught you perspective. But becoming teaches you power. And as you transition into this new identity, you will notice things changing around you. What once triggered you no longer shakes you. What once overwhelmed you no longer intimidates you. What once defined you no longer holds authority in your life. You begin walking with purpose, speaking with conviction, standing in confidence, not because you are pretending to be strong, but because you finally realize you always were. Pain clouded it. Fear buried it. Life tried to hide it. But God is exposing it now. There is a warrior rising in you. A warrior who fights differently, not with bitterness, but with boundaries, not with anger, but with awareness, not with revenge, but with redemption, not with fear, but with faith. You are not who you used to be. You are not even who you were last season. You are walking in a new identity, a new authority, a new clarity. You are walking into a season where you no longer see yourself as the injured, but as the intentional, not the hurt, but the healed, not the fragile, but the formed, not the broken, but the becoming. And when God shifts your identity, everything connected to your destiny begins to shift with it. Opportunities align, doors open, relationships change, strength arrives. Peace settles, purpose activates. Your identity is catching up to the truth heaven has always known about you. You are not wounded anymore. You are rising. You are not broken. You are being built. You are not the same. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. The doors opening for you now are not connected to the storms you came out of, but to the strength you developed in them. Life has a way of making you believe that everything you went through disqualified you, delayed you, or damaged you beyond repair. But God takes what you thought would break you and turns it into the very thing that builds you. Every storm you endured was doing more than shaking your life. It was shaping your life. Every battle that left you tired also left you tougher. Every valley that made you question your path also deepened your resilience. What you gained in the storm is what qualifies you for the doors opening in this next season. Storms don't just come to disrupt, they come to develop. You didn't just walk through difficulty, you walked through divine training. While you were praying for the storm to end, heaven was using the storm to equip you. Storms grow you in ways comfort never could. They teach you to listen differently, move differently, discern differently, and trust differently. Storms refine your character. They strip away your false supports. They expose what you were leaning on that couldn't hold you. And in that exposure, you learn to lean on God in a deeper, more unshakable way. Strength isn't built when everything goes right. Strength is built when everything goes wrong, and you still choose to rise. You didn't know how strong you were until strength was your only choice. You didn't know the depth of your endurance until life pushed you into it. You didn't know you could still believe until circumstances gave you every reason to doubt. The very storms you cried about trained you for the room you're about to walk into. What you survived prepared you for what you're stepping into. That's why the doors ahead of you are not based on the pain of your past. They are based on the power you gained from surviving it. Sometimes we think storms disqualify us when in reality they qualify us. They strip off pride, fear, and insecurity. They make you humble enough to learn and brave enough to lead. They force you to find the version of you that pressure reveals. Many of the doors you're about to walk through require a level of maturity you wouldn't have had without the wins you endured. You needed to be stretched. You needed to be broken open. You needed to be shaken free from the things that were limiting you. What looked like destruction was actually preparation. And here's the truth. Some doors stayed closed before because you weren't ready yet. Not because you were unworthy, but because the version of you back then couldn't handle what God was preparing. If God had opened those doors too soon, your insecurities from the storm would have followed you in. Your fears would have spoken louder than your faith. Your wounds would have overshadowed your wisdom. But now you've been tested. Now you've been refined. Now you've grown in ways even you didn't recognize until life forced you to see it. This is why the new doors have nothing to do with where you've been. They have everything to do with who you've become. People often think doors open because of talent, charisma, or connections, but destiny doors open because of capacity. And storms build capacity. They enlarge your spirit. They deepen your roots. They strengthen your foundation. Capacity is birthed in adversity, and that's why you're about to walk into rooms you once felt unprepared for. You are no longer entering as someone who barely made it. You are entering as someone who learned from every hit and grew through every hardship. You see, storms don't just pass, storms pass on something. They leave you with wisdom that can't be taught. They leave you with discernment that can't be faked. They leave you with confidence that can't be shaken. They leave you with clarity that cuts through confusion. These are the very things that qualify you for your next. While others may look at your scars and see weakness, heaven looks at your scars and sees readiness. The scars are not signs of damage, they're signs of development. Think about Joseph. His brothers betrayed him, threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery, and he still rose to stand before kings, not because of the pit, but because of the strength the pit produced. Think about David. Before he ever stood before Goliath, he survived lions and bears. The storm trained him for the stage. Think about every season you barely survived. You didn't come out empty, you came out equipped. Even when it looked like life was falling apart, God was building something inside you that storms couldn't touch. That is why some people will be surprised by the doors opening for you now. They saw the storm, but not the strength. They watched the struggle, but didn't witness the stretching. They heard the thunder, but didn't hear the prayers you whispered through your tears. They saw you break, but didn't see how you rebuilt. And that is why this next season won't make sense to them, because it wasn't meant to. This season isn't validated by people.